Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's June 16th, 2026. We're very glad you're with us this afternoon. Please note this event will be recorded. The recording will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For everybody who's on Zoom, feel free to put in your name, the position you're looking for. Give us 2 or 3 target companies that we may be able to help you with. Give us your email, your LinkedIn address, your phone, your city. Maybe we can help you in your job search. LinkedIn is all about connecting with other people who's on the call today. So put your information in and save the chat at the end of this session and link up with everybody else who's on the call today. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. That group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader landed a job. And I'll tell you about our really interesting program we have coming up this Friday at the end of the session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Don't wait until you have an interview scheduled. Schedule an interview now. The Taos Pit Crew likes to say, practice early, practice often. Just send your resume and job description to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com, or for more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com. We have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn. They rotate through on a monthly basis. Today, our speaker is Ruth Lipsky. She works for Lee Heck Harrison. She works with job seekers on a daily basis. And today she's going to talk about back to basics, making LinkedIn work for you. So Ruth, thank you very much for being with us, and it's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for everything that you do. It makes a difference in all of our lives with the ability to understand a little bit better what it's like to get out there in front of people and to make sure that you're going to be the best candidate. We're going to be talking today about the basics of LinkedIn, not the little hidden gems or the unusual features. We're going to go to what do people see? What do people use? How are recruiters attracted to you? And it's all going to be through your basics. So we're going to talk about the LinkedIn goals. You need to put in your value. You need to put in your skills. You need to know what the search engine on LinkedIn is going to be doing with that information and how it's going to be rating you against other people who might be your competitors for a job. We're going to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is readable for a human being, which is different from, is the search engine able to read your profile? Eventually, a person's going to be looking at it. And let's make sure that all of that turns into a really authentic, optimized LinkedIn profile. So here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about the headshot and the headline area because that's the first thing people see. We're going to talk about the hashtag open to work, the about section, the experience section, and the skills section. All of them are basics, but being able to use them to your best advantage is going to be important. So let's talk about that profile picture. Headshot should not contain more than one person, should be just you. You need to be looking directly at the camera. Smiling would be nice because it shows a welcoming personality, somebody who's going to get along well with other people, but it's not required. If you don't want to smile, you don't need to. Don't tilt your head. We see a lot of profile pictures where the person has their head tilted in one direction or another. It's considered a very feminine type of pose, a very beauty picture type of pose, but it also in a atmosphere of business can mean that you are presenting your jugular vein to people and are showing that you are not a dominant personality. So keep the head straight up and down. What do you wear? Whatever you would be expected to wear at work. Make sure that it is tied to what people expect to see. Don't wear a suit and tie if you're never going to wear a suit and tie at work, but don't get too down to the t-shirts if you're going to be presenting yourself as something that is more professional. That background picture is the largest area in the top of your profile picture, long rectangle. There's going to be a camera icon on the upper right-hand side of this feature, and you can upload a branded picture. And that's going to be a picture that talks about either what your title is, what your industry is. At some point, you can switch it over once you get a job to a happy picture, a picture that makes you comfortable, maybe a picture of your family, but don't do it during a job search. The job search needs to be something professional there. And don't use any of those LinkedIn suggested backgrounds. They all look nice. They all look comfortable, but they don't tell the recruiter anything about you. Find a picture that is more associated with who you are and what you do. And if you don't have anything in your picture folder right now, go to Google Images, type in LinkedIn background, and they will bring up thousands of free rectangular pictures. And they will have some filters so that you can find the filters that are associated with your reputation, your title, your industry, something that's going to give someone the immediate understanding of who you are when they land on your profile. Headline is your opportunity and your only opportunity to talk to recruiters. And if you have ever done a search on LinkedIn that is going to be more associated with how a recruiter would do a search, a recruiter is going to come onto the search bar and they're going to say, I'm looking for, in this case, an IT manager that has a PMP, knows Jira, and is in the United States. LinkedIn is going to give them thousands upon thousands of people who match that profile. But LinkedIn never does anything that is random. The reason these people are at the top of the search is because they are active on LinkedIn, because they have more information in their profiles than other people do, and that they have indicated in some way that they're open to work. They're going to be then looking at the all filters area here, and they're going to be able to pick other things to be able to search on. This one is new. The recruiters are now looking for people who are verified. LinkedIn, just like every other social media, has people who are trying to scam you out of your funds or your identity. LinkedIn created this verified field so that they could sort out the people who are scammers, people who are stealing other people's identities, and having that check mark by your name tells the recruiter that you have been verified as a real person, either from the company that you worked at or from a government driver's license, passport. Do this because if you notice, these are in the order that LinkedIn thinks are the most appropriate for this minimal job search. Notice that if I'm checking for people who are verified, number 2 and number 3 are going to disappear from this list. Highly qualified, doing everything right on LinkedIn, but they're not verified, and we're going to lose them. So use that verified field to be able to indicate that you are a real person. It is not 100% accurate. Nothing ever is in life, but LinkedIn is using this more and more. Then notice how little information LinkedIn gives a person who is recruiting. It's going to give the headshot, the name, the headline area, and the title of the last 2 roles that they've had. Not much information, but that's putting a lot of emphasis on you need to have a headline that is going to attract the attention and the interest of a recruiter. A recruiter is probably going to be much more interested in this information here from this person, as opposed to somebody who is just saying, I'm a senior project manager. You've got 220 characters in your headline. Use it so that a recruiter is going to want to see what it is that you are doing, what you have done, and making sure that they are going to be able to match that to the job they're looking at. So in the headline, most important part of your profile, because it's the only thing that recruiters are shown about you. It's a major factor in the LinkedIn algorithm. LinkedIn knows you only have 220 characters. It's going to assume that you are using the best words to describe yourself and the value you bring to a company. It's a way of talking directly to the recruiter. Once again, only 220 characters, so it's not much, but put in a title, something about your personal brand or reputation, what your expertise is, what your value proposition is. As you are deciding what your headline needs to be, go ahead and put in the title that you have into LinkedIn and see what other people have as their headlines, because that's going to be your competition. And there may be things that you can utilize that are attractive or interesting that other people are using that are going to be appropriate for you too. Don't use special characters. Don't use emojis. LinkedIn's algorithm can't handle those. And as soon as you put in a fireworks or a happy face or an arrow, LinkedIn does not translate across devices. It's going to get upset with that, and it's not going to read it as well, and it may stop reading your profile altogether. So no special characters, no emojis. Save those for other social media. Now, the way to write a compelling headline: title, then a pipe, maybe another title, because there's probably more than one title you're looking for, and then some skills that you have. Or you can have the titles and then put the value statement of accomplishing X through Y, or using X to achieve Y, using X to increase X to Y or decrease Y, putting something in that's more of a statement. And the higher up you are in an organization, the more important it is to talk about what you're accomplishing in these types of skills, as opposed to just putting the skills themselves. So, what are we looking at here? If you are a full stack application developer, what the recruiter is most interested in are the programs that you're able to use. So being able to put in SQL, JavaScript, things that you've used and you feel are highly capable of, that's what the recruiter wants to know. Put those in your headline. If you are in a organization or a back-end part of the organization, put in what you do best: cost-cutting strategist. That separates you from other people who may have the same title and makes you more intriguing to a recruiter. Same thing. Whatever you are putting in as a title, put in something more about what you do, how you do it. Anytime you can put in numbers, strong statement of, I can prove I have these skills. I can prove I've done these things. So headline area, put a lot of attention into this. And if you wanted to use AI, and most people are using AI these days, put in your resume, tell AI what you're looking for as far as your next career step, and ask AI to recommend some headlines that are appropriate and would be interesting to a recruiter, and pick the ones and reconfigure the ones that they give you to something that's going to be stronger. But this is going to be a key part of getting the attention of a recruiter. Now, the hashtag open to work, still a little bit controversial, but it is the number one filter that recruiters use when they are on the LinkedIn recruiter software. You can set up your job preferences so that you don't have that hashtag open to work around your headshot. It allows you to have 5 different titles. You can put in whatever type of location. The location for on-site, generally metropolitan areas or a cluster of single city names. Location for remote, generally put in the United States because that means that you're going to be looking for anything within the United States, but not necessarily from companies that are outside of the US. If you wanted to look for companies that had a headquarters overseas, you can add those countries also. Preferences, you probably want to use immediately because you are actively looking for a job. I just put flexible because I'm more casual. Employment types, every type you want. And by the way, contract roles are becoming more and more important in the hiring field. Many companies have been burned by hiring people who were really good in the interview process and said a lot of things that were probably created in an artificial intelligence environment. But when they got in and actually had to start working, they really did not have the skills that they indicated that they had. That's a problem. So now more and more companies are hiring for contract roles. We want to test drive you for 3 months, for 6 months, at which time, if you really are as good as you said you were, then we're going to offer you a permanent role. So if you're looking for a job, you may want to consider contract roles because there are more of them out there than there used to be. Now, do you want to have it recruiters only or all LinkedIn members? All LinkedIn members will allow recruiters who are not using the LinkedIn Recruiter software to see you. And there's an advantage to that because only about half of the recruiters using LinkedIn to find somebody are using the LinkedIn Recruiter software. If you don't use the hashtag open to work, then the recruiters who just did a search like we just did would never be able to see that you are open to work, and they're looking for that. So 50% of the recruiters are looking for that green hashtag open to work in order to bring you up higher on their interest level. But it's up to you. Some people still feel that this is a problem with reputation, that if you were laid off, you must be the worst performer in the group. That's certainly not true anymore, not these days. It was true 20 years ago, and some people still believe that that is the case, but with mergers and acquisitions, with companies revisiting what their core business is, the pandemic, where companies were going back down to core responsibilities. People are getting laid off that are enormously talented. And most recruiters, about 80% of them, understand that. About 20% of the recruiters still feel that that's a problem. So based on who you think you're going to be dealing with sometimes is whether you want to have that open or not. Analytics. Make sure you keep track of the analytics that LinkedIn gives you just underneath your name, your headline. There'll be an area for analytics. It'll tell you how many people have looked at your profile. Hopefully you are posting or commenting on other people's posts. The more that you have, the more interesting information you're posting, the higher this number is going to be, and it's going to affect the search appearances, which is when recruiters are actually finding you. This is the only way LinkedIn tells you that you're being successful. You're going to be active on LinkedIn. You know you've been told to post, to comment, to look for jobs, to add additional information to your profile. Fine, do all of that, but is it working? The analytics area shows what's working, and you should be looking for that upward trend so that you're always seeing higher numbers. You're going to dip every once in a while, but watch these. This tells you. The About section. You're going to talk about your successes. You're going to talk about your experiences. You're going to use keywords because this is one of the places that LinkedIn is looking for keywords. The headline area has a higher algorithm value, so it pays more attention to what you have in your headline. But then looking at the About section and your first experience, those have the second highest set of I'm interested in you. Where's the keywords? Your first 4 lines are the only thing that a recruiter can see or anybody else can see before they have to click that see more button. Make those 4 lines attention grabbing. And for readability purposes, the algorithm doesn't care, but the human eye will not read something that is more than a paragraph that is more than 4 lines deep. If it's 5 lines deep, it becomes a wall of words. It becomes a cluster of words that's hard to skim through. Spread everything out as much as possible for readability. And how do we normally set up the About section? You want that hook to draw people in. And quite often we're going to be recommending give a title with so many years of experience in this field. But the key part here is I help companies do, boom, something of value. The rest of your About section is going to talk about that, how you did it, why you did it, what the results were. But that first paragraph, make them interested. Now you're going to discuss your current role and your key skills, and the skills are going to be the ones that are important for your next job. You've got probably 1,000 skills in your skill set by now. You're really trying to concentrate on the ones that are going to be useful for your next job. Put those in the About section. If you can put in numbers, if you can put in metrics, really a huge point. How big was this effort? How many people were involved in the effort? What percent increase or decrease happened? What was the value of this? Now, the non-quantifiable results can be very useful too, but numbers really do add to a story if it's a story that requires them. And then talk about the highlight you bring, the value you bring. And that's going to be both technical and managerial. If you were asked what contributed to your success in your career, most people are going to talk about soft skills. I am a good listener. I build relationships with people. I'm good with coaching and training other people. Those are going to be the types of skills you're going to be able to put in there, as well as the technical piece of what types of software you used, what programs you used. Those are good, but have both because you're selling yourself both ways. And then at the very end, you can mention something about who you are personally, what your interests are, what your hobbies are. It only needs to be 1 sentence, but it gives a little bit more information about you. So it changes the conversation from here are all these tremendous skills I have at work, but my hobby at home is to do this. I find great satisfaction in doing this. Just a little bit of more interest, and now you're no longer just another IT project manager. You're the IT project manager who likes riding roller coasters. Now, the non-quantifiable accomplishments, a lot of people will say, what I did didn't necessarily have numbers associated with it, but being able to write what you did so it shows what you did, even though there aren't any numbers that are associated with it, can be a valuable way of indicating your worth in an organization. And being able to talk about why you did something. You may have had a lot of things that you were supposed to do in your job, but if you handed it off to somebody else for the next step in the process, that's an important part. You're still being asked to do something accurately and quickly and being in a timely manner, passing it into somebody else's hands. So non-quantifiable accomplishments are exceptionally good to have in there. Those that have metrics, important too for size and scope, but don't forget that there are other things that you did in your role. Now, the About section itself is generally organized in certain ways depending on what your next steps need to be. So let's take a look if you're looking for the same job. And this is a very short About section. Remember, the About section is 2,600 characters long. It is a huge amount of information. This person is just using 3 paragraphs, but 3 paragraphs is enough. Opening paragraph. This is who I am. This is what I've done. Next one talks about the tools. Final paragraph talks about what really motivates. That's all you need. Now, if you're looking for the same job, but you want to expand on the things that you've done in that type of role to give people a better idea of the depth of work or the complexity of the work, you could do it this way. Same type of opening paragraph, what your job was, how many years you had there, but here laying out the experience, and here are 3 things that are very important for this type of job, and here's a story about how I did each one of them. This can bring more interest to the recruiter because you've given more information to the recruiter on what you've done and how you've done it. If you're an executive, then you've got a little bit different tone that you're going to be looking for. And an executive about section quite often does not have numbers because the executive could be in a position where they have a non-disclosure agreement in place. You can't talk about numbers because of possible reputation damage to our company. But being able to say, I've got 3 strengths that are really, really strong ones that you need to know about. And the key here is that you're going to have 3 to 5 key strengths. Less than 3, and it's not broad enough to be considered executive or strategic level. More than 5, and you have just watered down and diluted the impact of the skills that you have. If you put down a list of 12 key skills and strengths that you have, it's not going to be read as truly key strengths. 3 to 5. But then putting in some experience. Pull up, once again, 3 to 5 stories from your resume. You got bullet points that talk about some amazing things you've done. Let's put them in the about section. Because if you don't dazzle the recruiter or the hiring manager in the about section, they may not read on to look for more details in the experience section. LinkedIn rewards you for repeating things. If you have a skill that is important, like SQL, you need to have that in your headline. You need to have it in the about section. You need to talk about it in your experience section. You need to have it in your skill section. The more times you say you have a skill, the higher level of proficiency LinkedIn assumes that you have. So repeating things is going to be to your advantage. And certainly putting things in the about section that you think are the highlights of your career are going to be really important because that's what you want people to see first. Now, if you're looking for more than one job, and quite often we're going to have that as a possibility. Here's a title that I had, but because of my background, because of the things I'm looking at, I could have more than one title that I'm looking for. And they could be just different enough that you need a different story for each one. Thankfully, LinkedIn allows you to do that in the About section. In this About section, we see somebody who is highly technical. You can tell that by the first paragraph. But then she has laid out 3 different types of roles, somewhat related, that she is looking for the future, and has a statement or 2 or 3 or 4 from each one about why she has that background and why she should be considered for this. Somebody who is looking for more than one job is going to be using more of the LinkedIn landscape than somebody who is not. So the more complicated or the more stories you need to tell, you're going to approach the limit of that 2,600 character limit for the About section. Now, what if you're looking to change careers? The first thing you're going to do in your LinkedIn profile is you're going to say why you're changing careers. This isn't just a little pivot. This is going to be something fairly major that you're changing. The first paragraph needs to say, I was successful in this job. I'm not changing jobs because I failed at that previous job. I am changing jobs because this is what is important to me now, and this is why it's important. And then put in the information that is the intersection of your previous role to your next role. Here's another way of changing careers. A little bit shorter through here, but first paragraph once again, I had a successful career in this. And here is why I want to change careers and move to something else. This one is more straightforward. Here's the information. Here's why I need to be considered for this other role. Okay, so far so good. Jeff, any questions come up in chat? Does anybody want to pause and ask questions?
I've not seen anything.
Okay. If you have questions, you can raise your hand or you can put something in chat, and Jeff monitors that and will be able to stop and go over anything that seems to be a bit different.
Hey, Ruth, I just want to double check on something. I think I heard you say that LinkedIn rewards us for restating things multiple times in different sections.
Yes.
As opposed to on the resume, we don't really want to do that.
Actually, you do on the resume also, because
Oh, really?
Any algorithm out there rewards you for repeating skills. And the more times that you say you have a skill or a title, the higher level of proficiency it's assumed to have. So both LinkedIn and the applicant tracking systems are going to be looking for repetition of skills.
Okay, so the keywords. Okay. Thank
you. The difference is that an applicant tracking system, your resume, you really want to keep to 2, maybe 3 pages long, but LinkedIn allows you to have something that is the equivalent of 5 or 6 pages long. The more information you put in LinkedIn, the better it's going to be able to evaluate your ability to fill a role that a recruiter is looking for.
Great. Thank you.
You bet. By the way, most applicant tracking systems can only count up to 5. LinkedIn can count up to 10. So let's talk about the experience section. Your resume has most of this, and it's important for your resume and your LinkedIn profile to be consistent on dates that you started, titles, things of that sort. But you're going to eventually have to put in an end date. Oh, Michelle, do you have a question?
Yes, I work in revenue operations, and I am looking, of course, for companies in the DFW area that are corporate locations that have a revenue. Is there a way to use LinkedIn to find a list on that? Because I've tried Reference Solutions, even trying to narrow it down.
You're trying to find companies that are headquartered in the DFW Metroplex?
Right, because I handle the revenue. I work with the deposits and the summaries and everything I send out.
Okay, a couple of things that you can be looking at. One would be take a look at the top 100 companies to work for in the DFW area. Most of those are going to be headquarters. And the Dallas Morning News puts one out every year. The Dallas Business Journal puts one out every year. I think there's one in Fort Worth. They will go through, here's how we set this up, here's how we measured everything. And then they'll say, if you want to read the rest of it, you need to subscribe to our paper. Go to the public library. The public library subscribes to everything. Ask the research librarian there to pull it up for you. You can take pictures of the pages that you want, or you can have them print out the pages you want. I think it's maybe $15 a page these days. But that would be a good area. But also when you're at the library, ask the librarian for a list of companies that are headquartered in the DFW area. The Dallas Business Journal has a book that they put out on a fairly regular basis that has all of the top corporations in the United States by industry, which is kind of a fun thing to look at.
And apparently I'm limited to which industries I could be in. So yes, that would help.
Absolutely. And if you think that you could be able to transition to another industry, check out those pages too. Might need a little bit more discussion in your cover letter as to why you're pivoting, but that can work too.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Putting an end date to your recent job. It shows you're no longer employed, and that's the honest thing to be able to say eventually. Normally, we're looking at 2 to 3 months or so after your last date, but you generally have to have an explanation of why you're not employed. And LinkedIn does have a feature now called Add Career Break that allows you to select the reason why you're not working right now. And it could be that you were laid off, that you're taking some time for professional development, uh, whatever it is. LinkedIn allows you to put in those breaks to say, I am unemployed, but this is why I'm unemployed. Unfortunately, when recruiters are looking for people, they're going to start with a title, but then they're going to look for skills. And in both the title and the skills, LinkedIn has a feature that says, I want only the people who are actively using this skill right now in their job to come up in this search. And if you're unemployed, then you're not going to come up in their search because you're not actively using that skill in a current job. This is not a current job. This is I'm unemployed. And the recruiter's software is going to skip right over you. What you want to do is to add a placeholder job that says, I'm looking for a job. And here are the things that I'm looking for. So in this case, they put in 4 titles. You've got a limit to how big this field is. I think it's 120 characters, but put in as many titles as possible because that title is a key part of the search. Then putting in something that says, this isn't really a real job. Next chapter, strategies and growth. It could be looking for my next opportunity, but it needs to be something that tells the recruiter that this isn't a real job, it's a placeholder job. It's one that I am looking for a new job, but here are all of the skills that I have. And quite often putting in all of the bullet points that you had in your last job into this placeholder job gives the recruiter a lot more information to be able to work with. Having a current job is a huge part of being found. And it seems a shame that LinkedIn is set up this way, but it was a feature that was put in at the request of recruiters because if they were looking for somebody who had Java experience, they want somebody who's using it right now instead of having used Java 10 years ago and isn't using it now. So it's their way of finding people who have the critical skills that are being used most recently. But you're going to have to work around this by adding in a placeholder job. Okay with that one? One of the things you can do in your experience section, we know that titles are a key part of being able to match to.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off mute fast enough. Back to that most recent job, a transitional. Is that better than I'm on the board of directors at a nonprofit and volunteer there? Would that be okay, or do you prefer this?
You would probably want both.
Okay.
Because being on a board is a huge plus because it shows credibility and trust and expertise, but it doesn't put in the skills and the titles that you want for a full-time job. So
Okay.
putting both would be the best.
Thanks.
Okay. The actual title that your company gave you might not be a good description of what your job responsibilities really were. Companies are famous for having a minimal number of titles, so they don't have to update them as frequently. They can use them across departments. What your actual title was given to you might not be what you want to be doing in the future. You can translate your title into something that is similar or something that is going to be translated to something else that a company would recognize. And here's a way of doing that. Let's get out of here. Okay. We know that recruiters want to see certain titles in their job search. Lee Hecht Harrison calls me a career consultant, but in a lot of parts of the industry, it's a career coach and sometimes it's a career counselor. These are used interchangeably in the industry, and I put all three in, separated them by a pipe so that I can be found by recruiters from any industry. They're all the same thing. I'm just translating it. However, in the previous role I had, Senior Manager of Training and Development, one of the key responsibilities I had for my 12-man team was to move classroom training into e-learning environment. And during that time, I got really good at being an instructional designer and an e-learning developer. So in parentheses, I put the titles of what I actually did and what I'm actually good at and would be willing to do again in parentheses. If you had a job title like a project manager or a program manager, sometimes what you did was not necessarily encompassing that one title. Put in more titles afterwards, because if you were also doing the budget and financial analysis, if you were also doing some other aspect that was in that industry, part of your job, put as many titles as possible in that field. It allows recruiters to be able to see what you did, especially if you're thinking about moving into a slightly different field. Education. People tend to put in a college they went to, the university they went to, but actually the education field allows you to put in a lot of other pieces of information. If you wanted to put in some courses that you took at work that indicate that you were being given the opportunity for additional advancement by taking some classes, do so. So adding into the areas that you might think you've completed and never have to look at again, continue to add information in as your development goes along. Skills. LinkedIn says they have 3,600 skills in their database. You need to pick out the ones that are most associated with your successes, your values, and what you think is needed for your next role. And in the skills section, LinkedIn allows you to have up to 100 of them. And it used to be that LinkedIn would show how many skills that you had when you were on somebody else's profile. So if I went on to Jeff, should have had this up already, Jeff. And if I had gone down to his skills at one time, they would have told me how many skills he has on this list. And people would make a judgment call as to whether that was too many or too few. Now LinkedIn has taken off that number so that you can see it on yours, but you can't see it on anybody else's, which gives them the ability to look a little bit more carefully. Oh, you can't even see it on your own anymore. That you can't even see it and make assumptions as to whether those are the right number of skills. So hopefully you don't need 100 skills, but feel comfortable adding as many as you think are going to be important. But reorder them so that they are going to be the highest or at the top. So both technical and managerial skills, if you work with other people, even if you don't have direct reports, but if you work with other people, you might want to have skills like communication, coaching and mentoring, building relationships, delegation, things that are going to show the side of you that is collaborative. Now, LinkedIn searches will recognize skills that have at least one endorsement. And here's an area where the recruiters are different from the LinkedIn algorithm. The LinkedIn algorithm is going to give a higher credibility to people who have multiple endorsements on a skill. But a recruiter is going to look at multiple endorsements on a skill and say, has a good social network. They probably asked everybody to endorse them for these skills, and here they are. So it might not be as trustworthy. However, being able to get some endorsements gives you more credibility for that skill. So more endorsements, the LinkedIn algorithm will consider that to be a positive. Recruiters will not necessarily treat that the same way. Now, the skill order can be changed. If you have done this before, you've got 3 dots on the top portion of your skill section. Once it's opened, you can reorder them. You're normally going to put in the skills that have the greatest correlation to the role that you want to next. So changing the order of the skills, when a recruiter comes onto your skill section, they could read the first 10 to 12 without having to do much scrolling, make those the most compelling that you have. Now, LinkedIn knows that there is no such thing as a perfect profile, but it does know that there are some things that recruiters want to see more often than not. And they call that being an all-star. They consider a complete profile to be a strong statement of, I know what's important for somebody else to see in my profile. And the all-star designation means that you've got a photograph of yourself, that you've got a location, and we know that metropolitan areas come up higher than single cities. And we also know that if you have a country like United States, LinkedIn treats that as an incomplete field, and it doesn't give you any credit, and it drops you to the bottom for that type of location request. So United States, if you're having that and you're trying to say, I'm willing to relocate or I'm willing to work remote, that's not what it means on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn algorithm is going to say, you don't have complete information, might not be worth talking to. Change that. It's going to have industry, and you used to be able to change the industry. Now it is hidden behind one of the edit features. You can't change it yet, but LinkedIn says that you will be able to eventually. The industry has been set for you based on the company industry that you worked for last. You need to have an about section that has at least 40 words. You need to have a current position, which is where your placeholder is going to help you out. You need to have something in your education, and you need to have at least 5 skills. That gives you an all-star designation, which gives you a higher priority in the searches. So the algorithm itself is going to be important. Knowing what's important to LinkedIn and what is going to bring you up in a recruiter search. And don't use special characters or emojis. It confuses the algorithm, and the algorithm will sometimes stop reading. The more times you mention a skill, the better off you are, because LinkedIn assumes that you've got higher level of skill for that. Words in the headline have the highest value. Locations, metropolitan areas come up higher. We don't know why, but we've seen this several times. Skills have to have an endorsement. Your open to work is aged. In fact, everything on your profile gets aged. So once you do something on LinkedIn, LinkedIn says, this is going to be important, but it's only going to be important for 2 months. And after that, I'm going to think that that's not important anymore. And that hashtag open to work is hugely important to you. Once a month, you need to turn that off completely. I'm saying every 2 months because that's how the algorithm is set up, but do it every month. Turn it off, turn it right back on again. It's like a light switch. You don't have to wait in order for it to lose track of things. But every month, reset it so you've got a new date stamp on it so that LinkedIn knows that you're still looking.
Question, Ruth. I've heard both sides that you can just turn it on and turn it off. I've also heard that you need to delete that and reset it back up. Do you have an opinion on those?
From what I've seen, once you turn it off, sometimes you'll lose everything, but bringing it back up, if it's still there.
You've got 2 options. You can turn it off, or you can change it to
don't change.
Recruiters only, or you can delete it.
You got to delete it.
You have to delete it. Okay.
You have to delete it. And if you need to take a picture of it so you know what you put in there to make it easier to re-input everything, you can do that, but you absolutely have to delete it because the date stamp is based on what it is that you have from your first
Thanks.
request. Okay, Michelle, question?
Yes, what I've been doing, and tell me if it's not going to help, but every week I go in there and I either take a space out or I add a space into my introduction and I save it. That's what I was told that it would take to update it.
Every time you do anything on LinkedIn, LinkedIn knows it. It's capturing every keystroke. And the
Okay.
more active you are and the more times you change things, the higher level of networking and interest LinkedIn feels that you have. So doing it on a daily basis, putting comments in 3 times a week are all going to be important
Okay.
because whatever you're doing, LinkedIn is watching you and rewarding you for it. It's like a loyalty program. The more often you use it, the better off you're going to be, the more benefits they're going to give you. And by the way, if you're not seeing that recruiters are contacting you or are finding you in their searches, change that headline area and change the first paragraph of your about section. So generally every 6 weeks or so, you're going to take a look at your analytics and you're going to see if you've got any interest and continued interest in your profile. If you're not seeing any interest through the analytics, start changing things. It's not working. And be comfortable changing things as you think that they need to be boosted up. So tips to attract recruiters is different from tips to attract the LinkedIn algorithm. And recruiters are going to be looking for a background picture that tells them something about you and puts them in the right frame of mind. They're going to look for that friendly headshot, smile or no smile. It needs to be a picture where they can see your face. They want to look for something that is interesting, that shows value in your headline. And your first paragraph in the About section needs to show something particularly interesting to a recruiter or somebody who's trying to sort out from the thousands of people that are available to them the fact that you're the best one. Making the About section readable, oh my gosh, too many people have a compressed About section and you can't read it. And recruiters aren't going to spend that much time. Top 2 skills, actually it's 5 skills, right? Top 2 skills in your skills section are going to be your superpowers. But we now are able to put skills associated with each one of our jobs in the experience section, put in at least 5 for each of the most recent jobs you have. Anything more than 12 years ago, probably don't need as much, but load up some of those top ones. And skills should be listed in the order of importance. And just some statistics of interest to show how people are utilizing LinkedIn and what's important to them. Okay, questions?
Yes, I have the same question I ask on every meeting, and everybody's got a different answer. But on my resume, because I've got 2 long-term companies, I've been putting at the bottom why I'm not with those companies. Is that not okay to do on a resume? Because I'll put like the company closed or the company had a layoff. Is that not a good thing to put on my resume?
You can. It's normally something that comes up in an interview. But if it's something as straightforward as company layoff of so many people, just a statement like that would be fine.
Because I'm trying to show them that I stick with a company. I don't just do flighty jobs. I stick with a company and I help the company grow.
Okay. Yeah, put that down then. Okay, James?
Good afternoon, Ms. Lipsky. I have a quick question. Is there a place where on LinkedIn where you can produce a resume off of your LinkedIn that's not formatted so that it passes all of the filters for the application trackers?
Okay, let's take a look at that. When you are on your LinkedIn profile, you
I
are
know you can
able,
I know you can produce a resume off of LinkedIn, but it's formatted in a a formal resume template, and
right.
so I don't think that gets past the application tracking systems when I apply for a job using that resume off of LinkedIn.
Why do you think that?
Well, that's just what I've been told in the past. Is it needs to be basically simple text on a a piece of paper, or on your application, so that it gets past, it at least gets through the application tracking system, I guess.
And that is true. The format that LinkedIn gives you when you ask it to create a PDF resume from your LinkedIn profile um, can be long, but it's also in a format that does not go through an applicant tracking system very well. And applicant tracking systems have a lot of trouble reading columns. So a column like this would probably get through one of the top 3 applicant tracking systems that are out there, like Glassdoor, Taleo. But if you're looking at a mid-sized company, their applicant tracking systems can't handle this type of format. So no, I would probably take the information that would be on this left-hand side and move it into the main portion here. But the other problem that you have with a LinkedIn resume is that LinkedIn allows you to have an incredible amount of information in LinkedIn, and it would make a really unusually long resume. So good information, but you would have to pare it down so that it's going to be more associated with the job that you're looking for.
Okay, thank you very much.
I want to add just one thing that issue I see all the time. If you're not a first-degree connection with somebody, you cannot see their contact information. So if recruiters looking at your profile, if you're not a first-degree connection with that person, they can't see how to call you or how to contact you. So be sure in your about section that you always put a call to action. Feel free to contact me. Put your email address in. Put your phone number if you can. If you don't want to put your phone number, get a Google Voice number. But always put your email and phone number in your about section, because anybody can see your about section and be able to pick up the phone. And recruiters have a very short attention span. If they find you and they go, "Oh, I like Ruth's thing," they want to pick up the phone and call you. That's the first thing they want to do. The second thing they'll want to do is try to send you an email. So, and using LinkedIn InMails are not very productive.
Especially since even if a recruiter is using the LinkedIn Recruiter software, there's a limit to the number of InMails that they can send out. And it's not that many. So they want to keep off of LinkedIn as much as possible.
Hi, Ruth.
Hello, Aaron.
Just one other thing I wanted to say, Jeff, thank you for your work, man, with Career DFW. It's been invaluable for me to be able to see what's going on. So thank you for your setting that up when you did and making that available to the masses. Ruth, my question is, I'm a visual artist, and experiential designer, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions about the section that is the featured section. I mean, even though I've got the little button at the top next to my name on my LinkedIn profile, it says you can visit my website, that really takes people to the complete portfolio. Is there anything I can do in that featured section? And just any thoughts you might have, if that's even valuable?
Oh, you need to have it in a couple different areas for sure. The featured area is going to be one, but do you also have it in your contact information where you can add a website?
Yes, ma'am. All
You
that
got
is
it
there.
there?
And I
Okay.
have the button that says visit my website.
Okay. And do you have it in your about section also?
I'd have to look, but I'll put it there if it's not.
Put it there,
Okay.
or right down at the bottom here. LinkedIn will only reluctantly take you off of the LinkedIn platform. So it's never going to be a live link if it's in the About section. But being able to say in multiple places, uh, put it in. It's an invaluable definition of who you are and what you can do. Put it as many places as possible. So it sounds like you've got most of them. Well
Well,
done.
well, thank you. And the question too is that, under the featured section, it allows you to put thumbnails or like a couple of photos of maybe works that you've done. I didn't know if that was something I should do. But anyway, I'll take your advice on that to put as many places as I can. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Rihanna asked, how far back should you go on LinkedIn? On a resume, I've been told not to go more than 15 years.
That's true on resumes because companies really aren't interested in things that you did before technology changed things. But within your LinkedIn profile, you can go back as far back as you're comfortable. So you can put in 20 years worth of career progression to show a little bit more about where you started, where you are now, either because you had a lengthy period of time at one company, whether you have had similar jobs that stayed in a fairly straightforward career, whether you've broadened out. I would go back up to 25 years. Anything more than that, and you start getting into the ageism problem.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Ruth, thank you very much. We're at the top of the hour. If you want to connect with Ruth, feel free to reach out to her. This is not her current LinkedIn profile. She keeps changing her picture every month or two. So if you want to reach out to her, please feel free to do so. Next week, our speaker is going to be Terry Sullivan. He's going to talk about how to tell your key contacts and prospects who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Terry does not allow the presentation to be recorded, so if you want to watch them, you will need to watch them live next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Tomorrow, the practice interview team is meeting in person. If you live in the DFW area, come watch a real practice interview. They'll have 3 different interviews going on. You'll be able to pick the one you want to watch. They're at Christ United Methodist Church at the corner of Coit and Parker in the city of Plano. From 1 to 3 o'clock, they meet in person the first, second, third, and fifth Wednesdays of the month. And then on the fourth Wednesday of the month, coming up in 2 weeks, they will be online only. That way, anyone around the United States will be able to watch an interview session. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, 9:30 Friday morning, using scientific creative thinking approaches in the job search. Bob Sager will be with us. I've not seen his presentation, but I've heard from other people. He does a really good job talking about other ways to approach other approaches in the job search. So come join us this Friday morning if you've got the time available. You can join us in person. We're at Christ United Methodist Church, same place as the pit crew, or you can watch us on Zoom. You're welcome to join the Career DFW and CareerUSA.org LinkedIn groups. We've got over 16,000 members in the Career DFW group. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join that group. I started each of the groups when we started each of the websites. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel. If you do, every time we post a new video, you'll find out about it and you can go back and watch it at your convenience. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. Every video goes into one of 7 different playlists. And then instead of clicking on the video, down below where you see that red arrow, click on View Full Playlist, and up will come a list in chronological order of the speakers, the topics, and the date, and you can go back and watch any presentation at your convenience. Currently, there's over 765 videos up on the YouTube channel. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, you'll never be spammed. I control the list. I only use it 3 times a week. Scan this QR code and just send a blank email. or send a blank email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io. We'll get you added to the list, and you'll find out all about the workshops that we're putting on every week. Please remember, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 17 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So, Ruth, thank you very much for joining us today. Everybody else who's been on the call, thank you for being with us. And we'll see you hopefully at the PIT crew tomorrow or Friday at the North Dallas group. Have a good week, everybody.